Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. This is the second time that I am trying to record this video because my recording app crashed as I was reading this article here. That's the first time it's done that in a while, and I'm not exactly sure why, but that's just what happens sometimes. So I'm hoping that doing it this time will be all right. But if not, then I will probably have to live stream because it will make me very mad. On that note, I am still planning a live stream. I just haven't found the time to actually do it yet because I really want to do one for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, like a good one. And I just haven't found the time to do that yet in between work and everything else going on and this and that and all the reading that I have to do. So yeah, we'll get to that. Don't you worry about that. Okay, I'm just gonna jump right into it because I don't have much to say other than that. So, check this out. When I first saw this, my first thought was probably your first thought. Troops in school buses last year with blacked out windows. That is literally what they were doing last year. There's video and photo evidence. That's the first thing that I thought about this. So, very important. And something like this should have people up in arms over all of it. 20 years ago, this would not have been acceptable. Soldiers driving your kids to school. Yeah, real acceptable. The bus driver shortage is so bad that 250 National Guard members were activated to drive students to class in Massachusetts. The governor of Massachusetts activated the National Guard on Monday to drive school buses amid chaotic bus driver shortages. 250 Guard members are now set to help with school transportation. The shortage made districts delay start dates, offer daily bonuses, and pay parents $1,000 stipends. I'm not going to read this article again because this crashed my recording app last time, so we're just going to move on. It basically just says that, exactly what you saw. And it says that they may call up the Guard for other things, and they only have 250 right now, and they might need more in the future, just basically what we see. So, this is very odd. This is very odd. Very, very odd. Let's move on. I want to show you something very important. I came across this yesterday on social media, and this is my local Walmart. Notice anything weird about this picture? If you don't know by now that shortages are already here, they're not coming. They're already here. And it's only going to get worse. They've been warning us and warning us and warning us about food shortages. Of course, they're manufactured. We know this. We know what they do. We know how they roll. But make no mistake, this is intentional. How many videos of warehouse guys did you see that were talking about how they were told just to let it sit? I saw plenty of videos and people saying that worked in warehouses that deal with food and whatnot. So, yeah, pretty important. And I got more, not just this one. Take a look at these. Walmart's supposed to be that store, that has everything. They never run out, right? That's what we were always told. What's going on here? Look at that. And I'm sure that's not the only parts of the store that are scarce in product. Granted, yes, food is very short here, but I haven't been there. Actually, I haven't been there in a long time. I might go there and take a look, though. I might go in and walk around and document some shortages and whatnot. But yes, this is serious. Look at that. But I guarantee they have an endless supply of makeup and toys and stupid stuff that just keep your attention away from the real things that are going on, which would be this, and this, and this, and this, and this. So, yes, this is my local Walmart. I'm sure yours look the same. I'm sure that there's way more stores out there that are short on food and stuff because that's what time we're in. They're going to squeeze us. Talking about banning interstate travel, revoking driver's licenses for people that don't take the vaccine, right? Talking about banning you from going into certain stores and whatnot. And oh yeah. It's going to come down to a point to where you're not even allowed to have anything to eat because you don't deserve to eat, because you're killing people, because you didn't take the vaccine, and you're out here murdering people, and you should be thrown in jail. And we can see it coming. They're building the social credit system right now. It's probably ready to go. They just need to make sure they got enough people on it before they can, get it rolling. Don't worry, it'll get there. Moving on. All right, here's something that is concerning, to say the least. Growing number of churches requiring proof of vaccine to attend in-person services. Churches, if your church is requiring this thing, then it's not a real church. They don't actually believe in God. That's the truth. If any church is doing this, they are playing right into the hands of the beast system. And Homeland Security did say years ago that they were going to use churches, pastors, community leaders, whoever else to push the New World Order. Well, here we are. Churches should never turn people away, should they? No, they shouldn't. That's the answer to that question. That is the question that is burning on many church members' minds as the issue of vaccinations continues to dominate the secular and religious landscape. Oh, it's done a number. It's done a number on... We were already divided before, but as soon as this rolled out, it's almost... You can't... It cannot be fixed at this point in time. Unless every single person has a self-realization that what they're doing is wrong and they shouldn't be fighting their fellow man, because there are currently people that are literally trying to wipe us off the face of the earth. That's the only way it would ever be fixed. But that's not going to happen because human nature, so I'll just leave that one at that. A growing number of churches are implementing their own policies in the absence of major denominations, giving clear direction on the issue. Marta Loop Church in Calgary, Canada, reopened for live services for the first time in over a year on September 12th. However, only double vaccinated people were allowed to attend. Oh yeah, so all you single vaccinated and unvaccinated people are not allowed. Oh, don't worry. Once they bring out the third one, they'll say that the double vaccinated aren't allowed, and eventually it'll be, if you got your 99th one, you're not allowed now. You have to have 100. If it ever gets that far, but you know what point I'm trying to make. Greater Piney Grove Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, of course, also opened their doors for the first time in over a year along with the vaccination proof. Church members must have their temperature checked, sign a waiver, and wear a mask. These people don't really have faith in God, do they? Or they would have no fear of death if they really believed in God. And I firmly believe that because I believe in God. And I don't fear death because I believe in God. That's as simple as it gets. Really, that's literally as simple as it is. So, all fear stems from the innate fear of death. That is a fact. It all can be traced back to it. That was the first thing they had to do to human beings, was make you afraid of the inevitable. which they've been successful at, of course. When the church says everyone must be vaccinated, they mean everyone. People under the age of 12 aren't even allowed in the church building. Youth services are streamed online only. Oh, so you're removing the connection through a blue screen. The human connection, which you need if you're going to be talking about God, right? For the Swiss, they are not letting individual churches decide, but have incorporated them into a national mandate. As in, church and state have morphed in Switzerland. Any church service that has more than 50 people will be required to enforce passport restrictions. The restriction means that many local churches are now asked to control the access of attendants and make sure attendants have the official document that proves they have been vaccinated against the virus, have recovered from an infection, or have tested negative. The Association of Free Churches in Switzerland responded to the implementation of the measure on 13 September with disappointment. Quote, visiting a church service is something elemental for Christians. It's an individual but also communitarian and spiritual experience. The medical pass may bring more security, the association says. These people don't read the Bible at all, just these churches. And the answer is no. They cherry pick what they want to, believe and then tell other people, but they ignore other aspects of the Bible, which that's a whole nother thing that we'll get into on another day, but that's what's going on here. Okay, so bring more security, but the effects of the personal decisions of citizens. We have encouraged people to get vaccinated, but we respect the personal election of every citizen they add. We are focused on the proclamation of the healing message of Jesus and on worship services in which we experience God and strive through His livable presence in the community. Well, if that was true, then you wouldn't have any of these medical passes, whatever else. So, again, these people are just saying things. Talking to the authorities, the group of Swiss free churches had asked for alternative solutions which could improve security without excluding people. The problem with that sentence is they asked the authorities. So people that claim to be godly and claim to believe in God and, hear the truth of Jesus Christ, they still ask the authorities for direction. If you go to church and your church is doing any of this, you need to leave your church. And I'm sorry if that makes you mad, or if you've been going there 20, 30 years, it don't matter. If they're taking part in this, they are not your friend. People seem to forget that it was the church who helped in crucifying Christ. Ideas such as open-air services, multiple services, and rooms with live streaming were put on the table. In contrast with the perspective of most evangelical churches, both the mainline Protestant Reformed Church and the Roman Catholic Church in Switzerland have supported the new restrictions in religious activities as they prioritized the growing figures of infections across Switzerland. So again, they're believing the inflated numbers and all that and believing man's word over God's word. That's what's going on here. At least that's what I read when I read it, but, my discernment could be off. I'm a human being, so take it how you take it, Everybody takes everything differently and all of that. Netzwerk Kirche und Corona, Network Church in Corona, which brings together theologians from diverse Christian confessions in Switzerland to analyze the C-19 situation, has also been critical of the national authorities. Well, good. According to this group, local church communities are not legally entitled to make determinations regarding C-19 certificates and do not support banning someone's access to a church service only because they do not have such medical certificate. The network even said it would seek financial help for churches who are fined by the authorities for not implementing the new C-19 certificate restrictions. That is what churches should be doing. They should be saying, no way. We believe in God. You're not going to lie to us. You're not going to sit here and do this. You're part of the beast system. Boom, done. End of conversation. Moving on. Alright, before we start getting into the actual meat and potatoes of this video, check this out. An internet apocalypse could ride to Earth with the next solar storm, new research warns. The underwater cables that connect nations could go offline for months, the study warns. That kind of seems convenient, doesn't it? And already based on, what we know about the true nature of the Earth, this is just, it's too perfect. It's too perfect of a storm, no pun intended. Okay, and it goes on with all of this, but the main thing here to watch is the study, if you even have a link to it, but I don't, there's no link to the new research, I'm sure. Oh, look, there actually is. Oh, wait, I think that's a different one. We'll get down to it. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. But the main thing to focus on here is how they're calling it an internet apocalypse. We know they're going to cut the internet. We know they're going to restrict the internet to people who, don't get the whatever. And if something like this happens, they turn it back on, they could say, oh, but only if you're vaccinated. The sun is always showering Earth with a mist of magnetized particles known as solar wind. For the most part, our planet's magnetic shield blocks the electric wind from doing any real damage to Earth or its inhabitants, instead sending those particles skittering toward the poles and leaving behind a pleasant aurora in their wake. But sometimes, every century or so, that wind escalates into a full-blown solar storm. As new research presented at the SIGCON 2021 Data Communication Conference warns, the results of such extreme space weather could be catastrophic to our modern way of life. In short, a severe solar storm could plunge the world into an internet apocalypse that keeps large swaths of society offline for weeks or months at a time. Sangeeta Abdu-Jyoti, an assistant professor at the University of California, Irvine, wrote in the new research paper. The paper has yet to appear in a peer-reviewed journal. Alright. Quote, what really got me thinking about this is that with the situation, we saw how unprepared the world was. There was no protocol to deal with it effectively, and it's the same with internet resilience. They're banking on that, actually. Our infrastructure is not prepared for a large-scale solar event, or electromagnetic pulse, or if they just happen to shut the internet off and say that's what happened. Part of the problem is that extreme solar storms, also called coronal mass ejections, are relatively rare. Scientists estimate the probability of an extreme space weather directly impacting Earth to be between 1.6% and 12% per decade, according to Abdu-Jyoti's paper. Still a higher percentage than, the thing that they're trying to still convince everybody that's going on. In recent history, only 2 such storms have been recorded, one in 1859 and the other in 1921. The earlier incident, known as the Carrington event, created such severe geomagnetic disturbance on Earth that telegraph wires burst into flame in auroras, usually only visible near the planet's poles, were spotted near equatorial Colombia. Smaller storms can also pack a punch. One in March 1989 blacked out the entire Canadian province of Quebec for 9 hours. Since then, human civilization has become much more reliant on the global internet, and potential impacts of a massive geomagnetic storm on that new infrastructure remain largely unstudied, as planned. And she said in her research paper or whatever, she tried to pinpoint the greatest vulnerabilities in that infrastructure. The good news is local and regional internet connections are likely at low risk of being damaged because fiber optic cables themselves aren't affected by geomagnetically induced currents, according to the paper. However, the long undersea internet cables that connect continents are a different story. These cables are equipped with repeaters to boost the optic signal, spaced at intervals roughly 30 to 90 miles, 50 to 150 kilometers. These repeaters are vulnerable to geomagnetic currents, and entire cables could be made useless if even one repeater goes offline, according to the paper. That's kind of, it's kind of funny, isn't it? It's kind of coincidental. Yeah, real nice. If enough undersea cables fail in a particular region, then entire continents could be cut off from one another. Ah, there we go. There we go. What's more, nations at high latitudes, such as the US and UK, are far more susceptible to solar weather than nations at lower latitudes. In the event of a catastrophic geomagnetic storm, it's those high latitude nations that are most likely to be cut off from the network first. It's hard to predict how long it would take to repair underwater infrastructure. But now listen, keep in mind through all this, what the proof says about the Earth and all of that we already all know about. Now this low latitude stuff, it's kind of weird, huh? And they named the US and the UK. That they would want to cut off our population from talking to other populations, right? They spend enough time with division and making Americans pretty much hate every other country. That's what the majority of people, especially in my area, that's how they are. You always hear them saying stuff like, well, I don't care what happens to them other damn countries, just America. And I'm like, they're the same as us, man. The people of the world don't want what's going on. At all. Nobody wants to get involved in war. Nobody wants to get involved in any of it. And if we actually took the time to talk to people from other countries, we would see how similar we actually are. Because in the end, we're all human beings, right? Can't be that different. I mean, yeah, we're all different, but at the core, at the core of what it is to be human, we're not all that different. But after all of this, she suggests that large-scale internet outages that last weeks or months are possible. In the meantime, millions of people could lose their livelihoods. Economic impact of an internet disruption for a day in the U.S. is estimated to be over $7 billion. She wrote in her paper, what if the network remains non-functional for days or even months? Well, that would just fast forward all of their plans right now, actually. And they could, use that as part of the reset, to reset the world economy and the world internet, right? We're going to need a world government to do all this, right? It all ties in. It always does. It always does. Always. Moving on. All right, I want you guys to see this one. Oh, I might get kicked out of this thing because it's the Independent and they want you to subscribe to whatever. Check this out. 9/11 truther, conspiracy theorist, ousted from Ground Zero memorial ceremony by police. And it says what, 9/11 truthers claim the U.S. terrorist attacks were an inside job by the U.S. government. Well, it's not what people claim, it's what the evidence shows, We already know all that, I don't even have to go through it. If people don't know by now, 20 years later, then you are way asleep. Check this out. A 9/11 truther was ousted on Saturday from the memorial ceremony to mark 20 years since the World Trade Center attacks in New York. The woman, wearing a t-shirt which appeared to read 9/11, They Should Be Alive, Truth and Justice, was escorted from the solemn event by 2 police officers. The woman also wore a small blue ribbon similar to others attending the ceremony. So, she was wearing a t-shirt that just said that, and she got, kicked out. Let me pull up another one because there's some more information in there I need to show you guys. Okay, this one appears to be alright, actually. Okay, so the 9/11 truther, conspiracy theorist, whatever, ousted from Ground Zero ceremony by... And there she is, actually. So, why was she removed? That's a peaceful protest, right? I don't think she was doing anything crazy. Okay, so we read this stuff here. She wore the shirt. 9/11 truthers claim that terrorist attacks in September 2001 were an inside job of the U.S. government. A spokesperson for the Port Authority said the 37-year-old woman, who has not been identified, was taken to Mount Sinai Beth Israel Hospital for evaluation. For evaluation. Remember when Bill Cooper was talking about how real patriots in the New World Order will be considered to have a mental illness? We're literally in that time. They took her for evaluation because she's a crazy, unhinged conspiracy theorist, right? That right there is a real patriot. Look at her. Look at her go. And look at those robots just taking her out for nothing. For nothing. Oh, you disagreed with what this is supposed to be about. Actually, I would say that she's the only one that is actually, fighting for those fallen people that have died during those attacks. 9/11 said they should be alive. Truth and justice, I believe. And they should be alive. What is going on in the world where we can allow this? Whether you agree or disagree, it don't matter. It's what the evidence shows. All of it. All the evidence. I saw something funny, actually. They tried to release the video of the Pentagon getting hit by the Tomahawk, and they said, oh, we released this to put some of the conspiracy theories to rest, showing the plane hit the Pentagon, and you can literally see a Tomahawk missile hit the Pentagon. Not a plane. So, try again. Also, the 45-degree angles in the steel structure on all the beams, they call them squibs, in controlled demolitions, we know all this. The free fall speed that it came down with no resistance from the bottom floors, fell on their own footprint, yeah. And this woman was taken for evaluation. This is scary. She's the only sane person there, I'm sure. Because all those people buy into the propaganda that we were attacked by terrorists from the Middle East, and then they go on about, the propaganda. Yep. Oh, check this out. There's little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home, President Bush said. But their disdain for pluralism and their disregard for human life and their determination to defile national symbols, they are children of the same foul spirit, and it is our continuing duty to confront them. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What this woman did was civil disobedience at best. All she did was wear a shirt to a memorial as a form of protest. And look what's happening to her. Can anybody say totalitarianism? But no, people will get on here and they will defend the state. They will defend the beast. They will defend all of it just because they are too stupid to go and actually read things like Project for a New American Century. Where they said that change in the Middle East would be a long, hard process over 100 years absent some catastrophic event like a new Pearl Harbor. That was written up in 98. Put forth in 99, right before it. What about the FEMA manual in 2000, in May of 2000, when it had the Twin Towers and the crosshairs? What about all the other things that I just listed? What about the predictive programming on TV and commercials 30-something years leading up to it? We all know what happened that day. And it's happened many times throughout history. False flags like that. And they do this so they can make us look bad in the public eye. Even though this doesn't look bad to me or to anybody else really that I know or that I associate with. But to the average sheep out there, freedom is bad. The day that we allow this is the day that we have lost the United States of America. Person on the left is a traitor. The person on the right, the two people on the left are traitors. The person on the right is a traitor. Everybody there clapping and all of that are all traitors. This woman is a fighter. This woman is a patriot. This woman should have been backed up by thousands of people on our side who should have stood up and said, you are going against her First Amendment rights. Even if she started acting irate once they put hands on her. That's what you're supposed to do. This is terrible. This is terrible. Moving on. And of course, as we're talking about things like that, this comes up, and it seems to be 1999 and 2000 all over again. It seems to be those times all over again. Right before a major false flag that's still on the horizon, that's still coming. Al-Qaeda leader appears in new video on 9/11 anniversary. They literally just put this guy in front of a rock and said, okay, now say this. We all know that the CIA created Osama bin Laden. They created Al-Qaeda. They created ISIS in order to destabilize the Middle East, in order to justify U.S. intervention in those countries, in order to make the entire Middle East part of the New World Order under the Greater Israel Project. It's all written in the documents. People say, what documents? Okay, I'll go get all the PDFs and you can download them and you can read them. But they won't read them. Because they'll read 5 sentences, not even, and they'll be like, oh, I'm not reading all that. I hate reading. My attention span is only 30 seconds. That's why I like commercials. Oh, here we go. Al-Qaeda chief Ayman al-Zawahiri appeared in a new video released on Saturday, the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, according to the Associated Press. Yeah, according to the Associated Press, who are so trustworthy. Why it matters. Last November, rumors spread that Osama bin Laden's former number 2 died from an illness through senior leadership never commented. In the new video, al-Zawahiri makes references that extend to at least January, according to the monitoring group Site Intelligence. Al-Zawahiri discusses the United States' withdrawal from Afghanistan, but not the Taliban takeover, suggesting the possibility this may not be recent reference. Under Donald Trump, the United States entered into an agreement with the Taliban committing to leave Afghanistan in February 2020. The only specific date referenced by al-Zawahiri in the video is January 1st attack, which targeted Russian troops near the northern Syrian city of Raqqa. The big picture. President Biden and his national security advisors have downplayed the threat posed by Al-Qaeda following the United States withdrawal. Al-Qaeda's power remains unclear, but the Taliban released many of the group's senior operatives when it captured Bagram Air Base last month. Civil war will likely erupt in Afghanistan. This could lead to Al-Qaeda's resurgence. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told Fox News. Of course he did. Biden now plans to combat terror groups in Afghanistan from over the horizon, and warns that the threat has metastasized beyond Afghanistan and Al-Qaeda. Almost like they're setting the stage for a major false flag again. And if you can't see that, nobody can help you. Why else would they start using this again? Why else? There's no other reason. That's what's going on. And if you can't see it, you are... Oh, Father, forgive me, for I will say something that I don't really want to say. I'm just going to leave it alone. How about that? I'm just going to leave it alone. I don't argue with anybody anymore. I don't do anything like that. I just make videos. I put them out. And if people, come here and they look at the information on their own time and research it and understand it, good. But if they come here and then they don't do that and they start with the attacks and whatever on me and this and that, well, I can't help you. And nobody probably can. So, with that being said, moving on. All right. Here's another important one here. This is something that we should be concerned about. Actually, if, anybody cares about freedom, but we don't care about freedom anymore in the United States. No, we're the land of the totalitarian takeover now. We're the land of, whatever you want to call us now, honestly. I don't even know what the hell to call it. Proposed U.S. rule would force reporting of all accounts of $600 or more. Huh. A federal proposal that would require banks, credit unions, and apps like Venmo and PayPal to report any account with more than $600 in transactions in a year to the IRS is drawing fire from financial institutions. Of course it is. The proposal, originally part of the $1 trillion federal infrastructure bill, is designed to find money to help pay for the $3.5 trillion federal budget reconciliation, credit union officials say. Now here's something for you. They never have to show their financial records. They never have to show their bank accounts. They tell you officially what they're, because they're in public service, they tell you the least amount of what they make and what they have. But we all know that they do shady deals and make money off the books all the time. How else do you think people go into Congress, which is a job that pays $180,000 a year, and they become millionaires overnight? And Congress used to, only get paid when they were in session. But all that was, taken away whenever the Federal Reserve was created, and shortly thereafter, they started paying Congress every single day. All the time. But if you have more than $600 in your account, so if you get paid a paycheck, and it's more than $600, which I would hope it is, because that's, not much money to live on, it's going to get reported to the state. Okay, Doug Trotsky, CEO of community-powered federal credit union in Bear, said that if the rule is implemented, it will mean the vast majority of accounts at his credit union must be reported. Only a small portion have less than $600 in a year in transactions. Yeah, $600 in a year. Chaz Zunicki, I think, president of the Dover Federal Credit Union, called the plan absolute madness and a gross overreach. Yes. Quote, my personal opinion is really kind. Let me start over. Quote, my personal opinion is it really kind of violates the consumer's personal privacy, Zunicki said. That's not your business how much money I have going into my account and out of my account. And this guy is exactly right. It's nobody's business. It's not my business what you have. It's not anyone's business but you and your employer. That's it. It's not the government's business. It sure as hell ain't the government's business. But, it might be. Both said that if the plan is approved and put into place during budget reconciliations now going on in Washington, D.C., it will mean credit unions are likely to have paid tens of thousands for a new processing software that does not now exist, as well as people to monitor it. That means less money left in the local community to provide loans or pay customers, the CEO said. Huh. So, less money left in the local community. Okay. That sounds legit, right? That sounds good, right? Because we got to be safe, because we don't know what these people are going to buy. They might go out and buy a gun. We got to stop them. We got to know what everybody makes if they make more than $600 in a year. They also worry about the federal government's ability to keep the information private. And we know on record that the government is, well, they always sell your information out to third parties. It's just not often that they get caught. Or sometimes they do and they just let it go. Or other times they do and they, have a fake court thing like with Mark Zuckerberg on the Cambridge Analytica and selling people's information. Nothing ever happened. It was just for your benefit, so you could feel better to sleep at night, knowing that something might get done about this guy that's somehow the world's top, you know, information highway. I have no idea what that guy thinks he is. He thinks he's like the holder of everyone's personal information. Spokespeople for WSFS Bank, PNC Bank, and Bank of America all declined this week to comment on the topic, but nationally, banks and credit unions are fighting the proposed rule. Well, of course those banks all declined to comment on the topic. It's designed to close the tax gap, said Brad Thaler, Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the National Association of Credit Unions in Washington, D.C. The gap is, in essence, money that's out there that's being unreported or underreported, he said. Who cares if it's not reported? That can include money made from illegal means, as well as cash not reported by those who don't list all their tips. People doing gig work for cash, side jobs paid in cash, people who sell crafts products from home, and other means generally considered part of the underground economy. As in, they want to make sure that they can, steal. It's not about them making money, it's about you not having money. They want to take what little bit of anything that we have. The financial reports would allow the IRS to compare how much cash came through a person's accounts to how much was reported each year on income tax forms. The current proposal does not include any enforcement measures, but it would allow the IRS to see if someone has $40,000 going through their accounts in a year, but only reported $30,000 of income. The concept behind this is to gather more information with the idea that if the public or consumers, I hate that word, or individuals knew the government was gathering information, they're more likely to report and pay taxes. Yeah. But what about all the elites? They never pay taxes. They don't have to. They're above that. They own all of it. Why would they have to pay into a system that they own? And they laugh at you because you still pay crazy amounts of taxes. And the lie that you get it all back at the end of the year, that's a lie. You don't. Not even close. Take into consideration all the tax you pay on things you buy. It ends up being 40% of your income. Our founders revolted over the 3% tax on tea and other things was the catalyst, the straw that broke the camel's back, of course. But to them, that was it, and they had it. Okay, and basically they just go now and say that this rule is going to be deliberated, blah, 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 and they're trying to justify they're trying to justify it, why they need to do this. But in reality, they don't need to do this. And this guy said, the Zunicki guy, I'm not sure that puts the U.S. in a great position at a time we're talking about putting cryptocurrency management in place and all kinds of other things. I think it will lead to the U.S. falling further behind than we are on the global stage. That's the point. To destroy the United States of America. That's the point. That's always been the point. He also fears that people will migrate to places where there is no reporting. Yeah, people will always go to where they can to do better. Trotsky said he worries about what the government does with that information and how it will be secured. Any real American would worry about that. But we've been dumbed down to just accept these things at face value because that's the world we live in. The instant gratification, the, convenience that I was talking about, the other day. People don't want to go through the hassle of anything, so they won't go through the hassle of speaking out against this stuff because, I'm going to go watch TV. I'm just going to do nothing. And he just goes on about all that. In the end, it says it's a noble cause, but to have entities that are already doing a lot, asking them to do more when there may be better ways to generate more revenue, we think it's kind of a bridge too far. They've been going too far during this whole thing since the reset started. And I always say that since the reset started, and people are like, what? I'm like, oh, well, no, you say, when COVID hit. I said, no, I don't say that. I say when the reset started. Oh, by the way, did I mention that it was under Donald Trump? So, yeah, that automatically destroys any people that support Donald Trump, and they need to get out of that Hegelian dialectic mindset. There's just a lot that goes into that I really don't want to get into right now. But, yeah, it's got a lot of people still banking on that. Oh, Trump's coming back. Audits, ballots. No. Busy work. Busy work, busy work, busy work. Nothing will ever happen. And he's still out there, helping to divide and conquer. That was the point. Oh, the rain's picking up. You guys can probably hear that. Moving on. Okay, I might not get to read this whole thing because they might try to tell me to subscribe or whatever. But check this out. They're coming after the guns. We knew they would. They're coming after the guns again, I think, for real. Because, and you will see, Florida shooting. Former U.S. Marine kills 4, including a baby, police say. An 11-year-old girl who was shot 7 times survived. Brian Riley surrendered after engaging in gunfight with police. More details emerged on Monday about the military veteran wearing full body armor who fatally shot 4 people, including a mother and the baby she was cradling, and seriously injuring another child before engaging in a gunfight with law enforcement in Florida at the weekend. Brian Riley, 33, there's your first indicator, was wounded and surrendered in Lakeland, which lies between Orlando and Tampa in central Florida, the authorities said. An 11-year-old girl who was shot 7 times survived. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said Riley, a former U.S. Marine who served as a sharpshooter in the U.S. wars both in Iraq and Afghanistan, seemed to have targeted his victims at random and appeared to be suffering from mental illness. Judd said Riley's girlfriend told authorities Riley had been slowly unraveling for weeks and repeatedly told her that he could communicate directly with God. There's your second indicator. They're demonizing anybody now. That this is intended to show that people that talk about God are going to go out and do something like this. This is how all of these psychological operations work. This is how all of these false flags work. Judd said Riley's girlfriend told authorities that he'd been slowly unraveling for weeks and repeatedly told him to communicate with God. Investigators said preliminary evidence shows that 40-year-old victim Justice Gleason just happened to be an unlucky stranger out mowing his lawn Saturday night when Riley drove by his home and began making deranged claims about the man's family. Authorities responded to the scene but never found Riley. 9 hours later, at about 4:30 a.m. on Sunday, Riley returned to the home, laying out glow sticks to create a path leading to the house, and what the sheriff's office deduced was a ploy to draw officers into an ambush. Wait till you see the numerology in here. Another officer who happened to be on duty distance away heard popping noises, immediately alerted the authorities who prepared dealing with the potential shooter, brought police presence swiftly to the scene. Following the sounds of gunfire, authorities arrived at the home and found Riley's white truck ablaze. An apparently unarmed Riley outside dressed in camouflage immediately ran inside where authorities heard another round of gunfire, a woman screaming, a baby whimper, Judd said. How do we even know that that's true? Officers tried to enter the front of the house, but it was barricaded. When they circled to the back, they encountered Riley, who appeared then to have put on full body armor, including a head and knee coverings and a bulletproof vest. Wait. So when they ran around to the back, they encountered Riley, who appeared then to put on full body armor, including head and knee coverings and a bulletproof vest. So wait. They ran around the back, and then this guy started putting that stuff on? They were just like, yeah, dude, go ahead. Yeah, get all geared up. Authorities exchanged heavy gunfire with dozens, if not hundreds, of rounds fired before Riley retreated back into the home, according to the sheriff. Okay, so how do you know that up here where it said that a woman screamed and a baby whimpered, and it said an 11-year-old girl was shot 7 times, but it didn't say by him? I don't know. It's just really weird. Especially the other numerology that's going on in here. You'll see. Everything fell silent, Judd said, until a helicopter unit alerted authorities on the ground that Riley was coming out. He'd been shot once and was ready to surrender. So basically they go on with that. Check this out. Deputies sent robots into the home to check for explosives and other traps. When it was clear, they found the bodies of Gleason and other unarmed victims, the 33-year-old mother and the baby. So the shooter and this mother are both 33 years old. Huh. Ready for this? Okay, let's see. She said she spent the previous week on what he called a mission from God, stockpiling supplies that he said were for Hurricane Ida victims, including $1,000 worth of cigars. Riley had no criminal history, told authorities he was on methamphetamines. The vehicle had been stocked with supplies for a gunfight, authorities said, including bleeding control kits. While being treated at the hospital, Riley jumped up and tried to grab an officer's gun. They had to fight with him again in the emergency room, tied down and medicated. Of course, he was tied down and medicated. But you see the numerology, 11-year-old girl, 33-year-old mother, 33-year-old shooter. They always sign it. They always sign it. They have to. I didn't want to spend too much time on this one, but I also want to show you guys another one real quick. And this is how we know that they're coming after the guns. Teenagers accused of plotting next Parkland Massacre at Florida middle school. I'm not going to go through here and read. Just wanted to show you that. Oh, and look, the 13 and 14-year-old boys were arrested Thursday, faced charges of conspiracy to commit mass shooting following a student tip given to a teacher that one of them was in possession of a gun in his backpack. And they go on about it could have been the next Parkland and this and that, and I think the people are ready, Oh, and look, the teenagers were studying the 1999 Columbine High School massacre in Littleton, and if you turn your phone upside down, you can see what that 1999 ends up being. And they go on about all this, and it all just seems too perfect. This is going to crash my recording app. Moving on. All right, this is what I wanted to end with here, and this is Prophecy Update. Considerations on the Great Reset and the New World Order. For more than a year and a half, we've been helplessly witnessing the succession of incongruent events to which most of us are unable to give plausible justification. Oh yeah. The situation of emergency has made particularly evident the contradictions and illogicalities of measures nominally intended to limit contagion, lockdowns, curfews, closures of commercial activities, limitations of public services and classes, suspensions of citizens' rights, which are disavowed daily by conflicting voices, by clear evidence of ineffectiveness, by contradictions on the part of the same health authorities. No need to list the measures that almost all the governments of the world have taken without achieving the promised results. If we limit ourselves to the presumed advantages that the experimental gene serum should have brought to the community, above all immunity to the virus and renewed freedom of movement, we discover that Oxford University's study published in The Lancet stated that the viral load of those vaccinated with double dose 251 times greater than the first strains of the virus. Do you understand that? The viral load of those vaccinated with double doses 251 times greater than the first strains of the virus. Despite the proclamations of world leaders, starting with the Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, according to whom whoever gets vaccinated lives, whoever does not get the vaccine dies. Gee, that's extreme. Side effects of gene serum, cleverly disguised or deliberately not registered by the national health authorities, seem to confirm the danger of taking the vaccine and disturbing unknowns for the health of citizens, which we will soon have to face. So already there's so much truth in this article. That's why I picked it. I was like, whoa. Whoa. The art of medicine, which is not science, but application of scientific principles to different cases each time on experiential basis, seems to have renounced it's prudence in the name of emergency that has risen to the level of priesthood of a religion, the religion of science, in fact, which in order to be such has cloaked itself in a dogmatism bordering on superstition. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Science has become a religion because, except for, in science, they just say, science says. They don't reference, they'll say that they reference experts and whatever, but they don't reference something that has held up over 2,500 years. Longer, actually. It's just the word of the experts, and that's it. Don't even say anything because you're wrong. Experts said. The ministers of this cult have constituted themselves as a crate of untouchables, exempt from any criticism, even when their claims are denied by the evidence of the facts. The principles of medicine, considered universally valid until February 2020, have given way to improvisation, to the point of being advised to vaccinate at the height of the situation. The obligation of masks being imposed, although they are useless, the arbitrary mandating of bizarre distances, the prohibition of treatments with effective drugs, and the imposition of experimental gene therapies in violation of normal safety protocols. And just as there are new priests, so there are also new heretics, that is, those who reject the new situation religion and want to remain faithful to the Hippocratic Oath. Not infrequently, the aura of infallibility that surrounds virologists and other more or less titled scientists does not seem to be questioned due to their conflicts of interest or by the substantial financial benefits received by pharmaceutical companies, which under normal conditions would be scandalous and criminal. Yeah, imagine if they were doing all this stuff pre-COVID, pre-reset. People would get so mad. So mad. What many fail to understand is the inconsistency between stated aims and the means that are adopted in a constantly changing manner in order to achieve them. If in Sweden the absence of lockdowns and masks did not lead to higher infection rates than in countries where people have been confined to their homes, or where they have had masks put on even in primary schools, this element is not considered as proof of ineffectiveness of the measures. If in Israel or Great Britain mass vaccination has increased infections and made them more virulent, their example does not induce the rulers of other countries to be cautious of the vaccination campaign, but rather pushes them to evaluate the mandatory nature of their giving of the vaccine. If that word will get you banned, and that word will get you banned, prove to be valid treatments, this is not enough to authorize them, let alone recommend them. And those who wonder the reason for this disconcerting irrationality end up refraining from judgment, giving a sort of fideistic acceptance to the pronouncements of the COVID priests, screw it, I'll say it, or conversely considering doctors as unreliable sorcerers. As I said earlier, we are faced with a colossal deception based on lies and fraud. This deception starts from the premise that the justifications put forward by the authorities in support of their actions are sincere. More simply, the mistake consists in believing that the rulers are honest, and in assuming that they do not lie to us. So we persist in finding more or less plausible justifications, with the sole purpose of not recognizing that we are an object of a conspiracy planned to the smallest detail. That's the best way to explain it. And while we try to rationally explain irrational behavior, while we attribute logic to the illogical actions of those who govern us, cognitive dissonance leads us to close our eyes to reality and to believe the most shameless lies. How true is that? That is crazy true. We should have understood, I wrote some time ago, that the Great Reset plan was not the result of the ravings of some conspiracy theorists, but the crude evidence of criminal plan conceived for decades, aimed at establishing a universal dictatorship, in which a minority of immeasurably rich and powerful people intends to enslave and subjugate the whole of humanity to the globalist ideology. The accusation of conspiracy theory could perhaps have made sense when the conspiracy was not yet evident. But today, denying what the elite has planned since the 50s is unjustifiable. What Calgary, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Klaus Schwab, Jacques Attali, Bill Gates have been saying since World War II has been published in books and newspapers, commented on and taken up by international bodies and foundations, made up precisely by parties and government majorities. Yeah, this whole situation, this one, the way to get their New World Order was planned since the 50s. I know it's hard to understand that for a lot of people, but it's here. And it's not stopping at all, whatsoever. And if anybody even tries to argue that, that's okay. I will not resort to personal attacks on you. I will not insult you. The first thing people do whenever you disagree with them is they automatically start calling you names. That's how you know you lost an argument. No, I will provide you facts. I will show you the newspapers, journals. I will show you New England Journal of Medicine. I will show you I will show you the Kigali Principles document. I will show you the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. We went over that. I will show you the biocompatible near-infrared quantum dots to be delivered to the skin by microneedle patches. I will show you cryptocurrency system using body activity data. WO 2020-06-0606. I will show you the book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, written by Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum founder and executive chairman. I will show you writings from David Rockefeller talking about the New World Order. I will show you that controlled demolitions brought down the Twin Towers. I have an endless amount of information at my fingertips, and we all do. In the age of information, ignorance is a choice. And people really need to be understanding of that. I'll leave it on that note. I don't have much else to say about it all except, stay prayed up. Stay aware. Just do what you're doing now. Whatever path you're on right now that you're doing, and you feel that it is what you need to do to prepare for something like this, keep doing it. Talk to people. Find like-minded people in your area. Gather up with them. Come up with a plan. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not unto temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.